Let me see who's out in here. I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about some things about Ethiopia. This is a Ross Corey, legendary Ross Corey, and I want to talk about Ethiopia so ones can understand what Ethiopia means in the ancient of days and how it lost connection to the so-called melanated people. You can say what you want to say, but this is my research and my study. Okay, etymology. Let's talk about let's talk about the subject is really it's about ether. I heard some people one day somebody asked me what is ether on a live stream. We didn't get to finish it. But ether, it's hard to explain what ether is because only when some people are just thinking about the outer space or whatnot. So ether is really deeper than what ones know what ether is. And I have got notes right here that I want to talk about ether, Ethiopia, ether. The subject is ether, and the Q is Ethiopia. So the etymology meaning of the word or the root of it comes from the term ether. Ether plus Ethiopia. Ether, Ethiopia. Ether and Ethiopia. See what I'm saying? Ether means to burn or blackness, and also the upper atmosphere or the heavens. Greek used ether for the so-called black people. Greek you called black people back then ether. It means black people. You got Ethiopia. It all comes from Aksum Empire, Ethiopia Empire, the Aksum Empire. All the land below Libya was Ethiopia. Ether, Ethiopia. Ether also means the upper regions or heavens, you understand, or the upper regions of space. Also, the fifth element. That's what it really means. You know, ether really means ether. People talk about ether, and when I had dude ask me about ether, so I'm gonna give you some notes I took from ether. Ether is the root word for black. You know, Ethiopia, ether means Ethiopia, ether, Ethiopia. Ether means burn or blackness or the upper atmosphere of the heavens. The Greeks used ether as black people, to be black people. The word called them black people back then. You got Ethiopia, Ethiopia. It come from Ethiopia, the Aksum Empire. That's where Ethiopia and ether comes from. Ether is the upper regions of the atmosphere or the heavens. It's a high mountain in Ethiopia. That's the ether. It's above sea level and everything, you know. So ether was also means the upper region of space and also the regions, the fifth element, you know what I mean? So ether is the fifth element, like the movie, The Fifth Element. That means the fifth element or the ether or the heaven, you know what I mean? Greeks believe that Ethiopia or Ethiopians are descendants of the gods or some kind of heaven, you know what I mean? So Ethiopia goes from an ancient what day. So the Greeks thought they was the god and or someplace out of heaven. You know what I mean? In the latter days, they called Africans the Black Moors. You can see them black little statues of the Moors, Black Moors. In the later days, they was called. They went from Ethiopians to Moors. Moors really are the Ethiopians, if you understand. It's real deep. So, so you got ether is a combination of gases. So understand, it's really gases because if you read the Bible, it'll tell you we come from Mother Earth. You know what I mean? It's the carbons. You know what I mean? We come from the carbons, gases, and stuff. So that's what it is. Africa was named after the North African tribe called Afri. You understand? 'Cause a lot of people don't know that Africa name come from a tribe called Afri. You know what I mean? The race is only a Western concept when it comes to like race, like Ethiopians, Ether, and Kemet or Egypt, whatever. It was no race. There was tribes, and when you come to the West, it was called race. They give you categories of race, different races. You know what I mean? Ether was the woolly hair people. You know what I mean? That's the Ethiopians. Ether, or the Ethiopians, or the Uptopians. You know what I mean? They come from the sun. You know what I mean? The life giver. Ether was also like called the flocus. That's really the solars or the prominence or the solar energy in the rhymes. The dark skin is the stronger than when it's in heat. You know what I mean? Your dark skin, that's your ether. And this woolly hair is the antennas to the ether, you know what I mean? To the atmosphere, the upper regions. That's why we like sun. You know what I mean? Some people don't like sun in the West, but really we need sun. We melanated people, so we come from the atmosphere. So that's the nine, you know what I mean? That's the ether, the nine knowledges, the nine overstandings, and the nine wisdoms, you understand? Which leads to nine minds, nine true liberation forces for those mentally dead. You know what I mean? So you got the nine mathematics, the science, the knowledge, you understand? And you got the nine knowledges, the highest degree of science and mathematics. So before we call it Ether, was Ethiopia, and you had what they call Nubian by the ancient Nubians. You understand? It's called Nubia, the Nubian. You know what I mean? And they still have it's still laying there in the Nubu. The Nubu. It's a Nubu. Was called the first people, or like the first people that was on earth. You know what I mean? The Ethiopians, the Nubians, and Ethiopian and Nubians are the same people. Don't you know that? That means Ethiopian and Nubian really means ether, life giving, and sunshine prominence. You understand? So when it comes to the Caucasians, see, the Caucasian has a lot of words. So you gotta understand when you're studying this stuff, you gotta know that the words that you're reading is really hidden and they took out. You know what I mean? So like, and if you look it up in their dictionary, Nuba, you'll find that the world of nuance. You know what I mean? So the nuance is really it's a slight. The nuance was like a slightly different shade of color. You understand? So the nuance shade was like uh Caucasian. The nuance to the Caucasian. You know what I mean? Say the Nubo was dark, and the nuance was like a Caucasian color. It was a different shade of color because it represents really death, but we're gonna call the Nubian and the ether representing and the woolly hair people represent nature, knowledge, you know what I mean? The ninth, you know what I mean? So in the nine is the nine. I'm gonna give this to you. This is not about color. This is the nine is the ether. That's the melanated people. We ain't black. It's melanated. So you the nine, and the lighter skin or the Caucasian, the six. If you understand, it's really the nine and the six. It's really like it's adverse. You know what I mean? The 9 and the 6 is adverse. It's the forces to each other. Don't say like black people is black, cause the cold blooded really is the pale people, and the white people really the cold blooded people. You understand? And that's the ether. You know, the original man was ether. You know what I mean? The Ethiopian. As Ethiopian, it's no one wants to understand that Ethiopia is the whole Africa. People look to Kemet or Egypt. Like I said before, Kemet is a baby sister to Ethiopia. You know what I mean? Abyssinia. That's the Rastafari lineage right there. Goes straight down. King Selassie in his lineage. You know the gods. The Rosses was different gods, and he's the descendant from that God's realm. And that was what we talking about ether, because ether is your melanin skin and your woolly hair. The woolly hair people was ether. Well, I keep saying the Greeks said it was ether, was black people from Ethiopia, and Ethiopia is the ancient of days. You know what I mean? That's Rastafari. So you learned something about ether on this quick note. So shalom, shalom. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button.